As people get older, taking care of a large garden or low planting beds close to the ground can become more difficult. Movements like bending down for a long time, lifting heavy pots, pulling weeds, or caring for plants in very low positions can sometimes make the back, knees, and shoulders feel tired and strained. But that does not mean older adults have to give up the joy of gardening. By simply choosing the right plants and arranging them more thoughtfully, caring for plants can still become a gentle, safe, and deeply relaxing habit. Potted plants placed on a patio, balcony, raised planter, or walkway near the house can make it easier for gardeners to observe, water, and care for them every day. In this video, we will explore 10 plants that are suitable for older adults, especially choices that focus on beauty, relaxation, and easy care. These plants not only help make the living space brighter, but also turn gardening into a joy that is easier to maintain, more familiar, and more comfortable in later life. Before we begin, you can hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more videos about beautiful, easy-to-grow plants that don't require too much care. 1. Hydrangea. Hydrangeas are a wonderful choice for older adults who want a garden corner that feels beautiful, soft, and not too demanding to care for. The most appealing feature of this flower is its large, round clusters of blooms in gentle, soothing colors, which can brighten up a patio, balcony, or front walkway without the need to plant too many flowers. For older adults, hydrangeas are best grown in large pots, raised planters, or spots that sit slightly above ground level, rather than in low garden beds. This kind of setup makes watering, checking the leaves, trimming faded blooms, or simply enjoying the flowers each day much easier, without having to bend down for too long. If you use pots, it is best to place them in a permanent spot from the beginning or choose ones with wheels, because once the plant grows, the pot can become quite heavy and should not have to be moved back and forth often. Hydrangeas usually prefer gentle light, especially morning sun and afternoon shade. They do not require overly complicated care, but they do need consistent moisture, especially during hot weather. As long as they are watered properly and the soil is not allowed to stay dry for too long, the plant can remain lush and healthy and produce beautiful blooms during its flowering season. What makes hydrangeas especially suitable for older adults is the clear sense of relaxation they bring. Their large blooms and soft colors not only make the garden look more elegant, but also create a peaceful focal point where the gardener can sit, enjoy a cup of tea, and take pleasure in the results of their care each day. 2. Peach tree. A peach tree is a beautiful choice for older adults who want a plant that can decorate the garden while also bringing a sense of anticipation through each season. In spring, the tree can produce soft, delicate, and eye-catching blossoms. As the weather gets warmer, its green foliage begins to grow, creating a fresh feeling for a patio, balcony, or walkway around the house. If cared for properly, the tree may even produce small peaches, making gardening much more enjoyable. To make care easier and gentler, it is best to choose dwarf peach varieties or peach trees grown in pots, rather than large peach trees planted directly in the garden. When grown in a large pot and placed in an easy-to-reach location, older adults can water the tree, observe the leaves, check the flowers, or harvest the fruit without having to bend down too much. If the pot is heavy, it should be placed on a wheeled plant stand from the beginning to avoid lifting or carrying it when it needs to be moved. Peach trees usually need plenty of sunlight and an open, airy space to grow well. During the flowering stage or when the tree starts to set fruit, the soil should be kept moderately moist and should not be left dry for too long. Pruning should also be done gently, mainly to keep the tree's shape compact, remove weak branches, and allow better airflow through the plant. What makes a peach tree especially valuable is that it does more than beautify the living space. It also creates a feeling of connection with the rhythm of nature. Each stage of the tree, from flower buds and young leaves to ripening fruit, brings a small, gentle, and very pleasant joy to the person caring for it. 3. Olive tree. An olive tree brings a very elegant and peaceful feeling to the garden. With its slightly twisted trunk, small silvery green leaves, and slow-growing shape, the olive tree does not feel as bright or showy as many flowering plants, but it has a lasting and refined beauty. Just one potted olive tree placed on a patio, balcony, or near a walkway can make the space feel more open, gentle, and Mediterranean-inspired. For older adults, olive trees are most suitable when grown in large pots and placed in a fixed, easy-to-reach location. This makes watering, checking the leaves, and doing light pruning more convenient, without having to bend down close to the ground. Since an olive pot can become quite heavy as the tree grows, it is best to place the pot on a wheeled plant stand or choose a stable location from the beginning to avoid moving it too often. Olive trees usually prefer plenty of sunlight, good airflow, and well-draining soil. This is a plant that does not like to sit in soggy soil. So, when growing it in a pot, it is important to make sure the bottom of the pot has drainage holes and that the plant is not watered too frequently. Its care is not too complicated. Simply water when the soil begins to dry, and cut away weak branches or tangled growth to keep the tree neat and compact. What makes the olive tree especially worth growing is its slow, lasting beauty. It does not need to be overly eye-catching to create a very subtle focal point and make the garden feel more relaxing. For older adults, a small potted olive tree can feel like a quiet resting corner, where they can sit, look at the tree, and enjoy a slower, gentler rhythm of life each day. 4. Honeysuckle. Honeysuckle brings a soft and romantic feeling to the garden, especially when grown near a fence, garden gate, balcony, or small trellis. Its lush green vines, combined with delicate clusters of flowers, can make the space feel more natural, welcoming, and layered, without needing too many plants crowded around it. The most beautiful feature of honeysuckle is its gentle fragrance, which is often more noticeable in the evening or when the air is cooler. So, if the plant is placed near a sitting area, walkway, or window, older adults can enjoy its soft scent every day without having to care for it too intensively. This is the kind of plant that is not only nice to look at, but also brings a clear sense of relaxation to the garden. To make care easier, honeysuckle should be trained to climb on a trellis, fence, or support frame at around eye level. When the plant grows upward, it becomes much easier to observe the leaves, adjust the vines, do light pruning, or check the flowers without having to bend down close to the ground. If grown in a large pot, the pot should be placed in a fixed spot with support nearby, so the plant can climb naturally and does not need to be moved too often later. Honeysuckle usually prefers a bright, airy location with well-draining soil. It does not require heavy care, but it should still be watered regularly during the early stage after planting so the roots can settle in. Once the plant is healthy, you only need to trim back branches that are too tangled or growing in the wrong direction to keep its shape neat. A small honeysuckle trellis can turn an ordinary garden corner into a very pleasant place to sit, enjoy a cup of tea, and take in its gentle fragrance after a long day. If you would like me to make a separate video about potted flowers for older adults, please comment the word flowers below. 5. Potted roses. Potted roses are a very charming choice for older adults who love flowers but do not want to care for large rose bushes in the garden. Compared with climbing roses or tall shrub roses, potted roses are usually more compact and easier to place on a patio, balcony, in front of the house, or along a walkway. Just a few pots of blooming roses can make the living space feel much softer, warmer, and more full of life. The convenient thing about potted roses is that the gardener can control the plant's location and height more easily. Instead of bending down to care for plants in the ground, the pots can be placed on a low stand, a sturdy shelf, or in a raised planter, making watering, removing faded flowers, and checking the leaves much easier. If the pot is large and heavy, it should be placed in a fixed spot from the beginning or set on a wheeled plant stand to avoid too much lifting and carrying. Potted roses usually need plenty of sunlight, good airflow, and well-draining soil. When watering, it is better to water at the base instead of getting too much water on the leaves, because leaves that stay wet for too long can make the plant more vulnerable to fungal problems. Removing faded blooms is also very important, not only because it keeps the rose pot looking neat, but also because it encourages the plant to keep producing flowers in later blooming cycles. What makes potted roses especially appealing is the joy of seeing a new flower bud appear. Their small, lovely blooms, bright colors, and gentle fragrance can turn an ordinary corner of the patio into a place worth sitting in, enjoying a cup of tea, admiring the flowers, and taking in a slower rhythm of life each day. 6. Ornamental allium, Ornamental allium is a very interesting flower because its shape is quite different from many familiar decorative plants. Instead of soft petals spreading wide open, ornamental allium usually has a round flower head like a small bowl, growing on a tall, straight stem. When it blooms, its purple, pink, white, or pale blue flowers can create a very modern focal point for a patio, walkway, or front garden planter. What makes ornamental allium suitable for older adults is that it grows fairly compactly and rises upright. When planted in a tall pot, raised planter, or placed along a walkway, the gardener can easily admire the flowers without having to bend down too much. The tall flower stems also add height and a lively feeling to the garden, especially when planted together with lower growing flowers. Ornamental allium is usually grown from bulbs, so the initial care is not too complicated. After planting, it needs well-draining soil and a spot with plenty of sunlight to grow well. The important thing is not to water too much, because allium bulbs do not like sitting in soggy soil. Once the flowers have faded, the dry flower stems can be cut back to keep the pot looking neat, while the leaves should be left to wither naturally so they can feed the bulb for the next season. The beauty of ornamental allium lies in its simplicity, but it still stands out clearly. Just a few tall, round blooms can make the garden look more refined, almost like small floating accents in the space. For older adults, this is a plant that is easy to enjoy and does not require too many heavy care tasks. 7. Daffodils. Daffodils are flowers that bring a very bright and warm feeling, especially suitable for bringing life back to garden corners, balconies, or walkways after a long, cold, and gray season. Their bright yellow flowers and gently upright shape often create a cheerful feeling at first glance. Just a few pots of daffodils placed near the doorway or beside a resting chair can make the living space feel much more lively and full of energy. One convenient thing about daffodils is that they can be grown in pots, raised planters, or planting trays placed in easy-to-see locations. When the flowers bloom, older adults do not need to bend down low to admire or care for them. If grown in pots, they should be placed on a patio, doorstep, or sturdy plant stand, so watering and checking the plants become easier and gentler. Daffodils are usually grown from bulbs, so the initial preparation is quite simple. They prefer well-draining soil and a spot with enough light. While the plant is growing, it only needs moderate watering. Avoid letting the soil become waterlogged, because the bulbs can rot easily if they stay too wet. After the flowers fade, you can cut off the dried blooms to keep the pot looking neat. But the leaves should be left green for a while so the bulb can store energy for the next season. One thing to keep in mind is that daffodil bulbs are not meant to be eaten and should be kept away from young children or pets. But when grown properly, this is a flower that is truly worth having in the garden. Its bright beauty, compact shape, and low-maintenance care make daffodils a gentle, cheerful, and inspiring choice for everyday life. 8. Tulips. Tulips are flowers with a very elegant and tidy beauty, and they can instantly make a living space feel brighter. Their blooms stand upright, with soft petals that still have a clear shape, and their colors are very diverse, including red, yellow, pink, white, orange, and purple. Just a few pots of tulips placed on a patio, balcony, doorstep, or near a walkway can make that area feel fresh, gentle, and worth admiring every day. One convenient thing about tulips is that they do not take up too much space. Older adults can grow tulips in pots, raised planters, or planting trays placed on sturdy shelves to make care easier. When the plants begin to grow leaves and form buds, everything stays clearly within view, so there is no need to bend down for too long. In particular, tulips planted in small clusters can create a beautiful effect while still not requiring the gardener to care for too many individual plants. Tulips are usually grown from bulbs, so the early stage is fairly simple. They need well-draining soil, a location with gentle to moderate light, and they should not be watered too much. When watering, it is enough to keep the soil slightly moist and avoid letting the pot become waterlogged, because the bulbs can easily be damaged if they sit in overly wet conditions. After the flowers fade, the dried blooms can be cut off to keep the pot looking neat, while the leaves should be allowed to turn yellow naturally before being removed. What makes tulips especially charming is the sense of anticipation as each flower bud begins to emerge from the soil. Every day, the plant changes a little, from a small green shoot to a fully open flower. For older adults, tulips are not only beautiful potted flowers, but also a gentle, easy care joy that can bring a very positive feeling to the living space. 9. Phalaenopsis orchid. The Phalaenopsis orchid is one of the flowers that is especially suitable for older adults who love elegant, gentle beauty and do not want plant care to feel too demanding. Unlike many outdoor plants that require digging soil, pulling weeds, or frequent watering, Phalaenopsis orchids are usually grown in small pots and placed right on a table, shelf, windowsill, or in a softly lit corner of the room. Thanks to this, the person caring for the plant can observe the flowers, check the leaves, and water it in a very comfortable position, almost without having to bend down. The most outstanding feature of the Phalaenopsis orchid is that its flowers last a long time. A single flower spike can stay beautiful for many weeks, or even longer if the conditions are right. Its soft petals, gently curved shape, and elegant colors such as white, pink, purple, yellow, or orange can make the living space feel more refined without needing too many decorations. Just one orchid pot placed in the living room, on the dining table, or near a window is enough to create a fresh and peaceful feeling. Phalaenopsis orchids do not like harsh direct sunlight. They do better in a place with soft, stable light and good airflow. When caring for the plant, it is important not to water too much, because orchid roots can easily rot if they stay wet all the time. Usually, you only need to check the growing medium, and if it feels dry, water lightly. After watering, let the water drain completely and avoid allowing water to sit at the bottom of the pot for too long. What makes the Phalaenopsis orchid such a lovely choice for older adults is the subtle joy it brings. It does not require too much daily care, but each time the gardener sees that the flower spike is still fresh and blooming beautifully, it can feel as if the room has been filled with a little more softness and life. 10. Aloe vera. Aloe vera is a very suitable plant for older adults who like simple, full, tidy potted plants that do not require complicated care. The plant has a succulent shape, thick leaves, and a cool green color, often creating a clean and healthy feeling in the living space. Just one small aloe vera pot placed near a window, on a table, on a low shelf, or in a bright balcony corner can add a very pleasant touch of greenery to the room. One convenient thing about aloe vera is that it does not need to be watered often. Because its leaves can store water, the plant can tolerate dryness better than many other ornamental plants. This is especially suitable for older adults, particularly those who do not want to water plants every day or worry that the plant will wilt quickly if they forget to care for it for a short time. When grown in a small pot or a pot placed at a comfortable height, checking the soil, turning the pot, and caring for the plant also become easier, without having to bend down much. Aloe vera usually prefers bright light, but it should not be exposed to harsh direct sunlight for too long, especially if it is placed behind a glass window. When watering, it should only be watered once the soil has dried, because if the soil stays wet all the time, the roots can easily rot. The pot should have good drainage holes, and the soil should be loose and not hold too much water. This is the most important point for helping the plant stay healthy and keep its attractive shape. Besides its fresh green appearance, aloe vera also brings a very practical and familiar feeling. It is not too colorful or too eye-catching, but it offers a sense of peace, neatness, and easy care. For older adults, a small aloe vera pot can be a very gentle choice for maintaining a daily plant care habit without creating extra pressure or heavy work. Would you like me to continue with a topic about flowers, fruit trees, or indoor plants for older adults? Leave a comment and let me know. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next videos. A beautiful garden does not necessarily have to be large or require too much work to maintain. For older adults, what matters more is creating a space that is easy to access, safe, and relaxing to enjoy every day. When plants are grown in pots and placed on a patio, balcony, raised surface, or near a walkway, watering, admiring the flowers, and doing light care can become much more comfortable. The plants on this list not only help beautify the living space, but also bring very simple joys waiting for a flower bud to bloom. Seeing a new leaf appear, or simply sitting beside a peaceful green corner. These are small moments, but they can make each day feel gentler and more meaningful. Gardening in later life should not be a heavy chore. It should be a slow, manageable, and easy to maintain joy, a place where the gardener can care for the plants, while the garden also cares for them in return through its beauty, quietness, and sense of peace.